Hello, welcome to the HealthInn Show, an affiliate program of Homeopathy World Community. You've come to the right place to tune in and participate with your comments and questions. Love is the greatest healer of all. But sometimes, in order to change our emotions, we must take action in other spheres of our lives. We speak with experts in alternative and complementary health fields and hope you will benefit in some small or great way. Remember, you are wherever your thoughts are. Make sure your thoughts are where you want to be.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the HealthInn Show. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and we are so delighted to have you here today to share in today's experience because it's going to be great, and this is for everyone. So before we get on with our show, I just want to remind everyone that you are more than welcome anytime during the show to please contact us. You know, we have a chat. You can put your name right there. It's live. We'll monitor it. If you have a comment, question, statement, a quote, whatever it is, please put it there. You're also welcome to call in at 919-518-9773. Love to have you do that as well. And you can also come in on Skype, and that would be to computers, and that's plural, then the number 2K voice. You will come in on voice, not video, so don't worry about anything. We just want to hear what you have to say, and we want you to participate. This is for everyone to learn together. We are a community, remember that. HWC, Homeopathy World Community. We are a community, so we want you here. So let me go on and thank Amnon for being here because he is our producer and he takes care of everything. So Amnon, thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome, welcome.
And let me introduce Chanel. Oh, Chanel, how are you, honey?
I'm good. Hello, everyone. How are you, Marilyn?
I'm good, all the way from South Africa, right?
Yep, right at the bottom.
Right at the bottom. So tell everybody about you and what we're going to do today.
Well, I am a classically trained homeopath, and I have been with HWC now for 2 years. This has been fabulous. We are here today with Jonathan, who's here with us from hot, humid New York City.
Got that right.
And we will be, he's also a classically trained homeopath, and we will actually be discussing heat and what that means in all of the ways that it has meaning. And there are lots of different meanings for the word heat. So Jonathan, take us away.
You know, I find it coincidental that recently, the past couple of days, especially today, the heat here in New York has increased so significantly. Yesterday being 8/8, which is the Lionsgate portal, now being such a powerful time for spiritual work, setting of intentions. The energy is extremely live right now. Many people may be feeling that energy in their own personal lives and the situations that they find themselves in. And then the temperature increases to now where it's 90 degrees, 10 o'clock here in the morning here in New York, and probably going to climb up to 92, 93 degrees in the middle of the afternoon. So I find that to be extremely coincidental that's what we're experiencing. And then if you take a look, you know, in a larger sense, you know, because everything is connected, right? So in your own personal life, we might have, you know, the hot temperature. In our own personal life, we may have heated moments. But then let's look at the larger picture. Let's expand outward, because the human being obviously exists in a state of balance with the rest of the universe. So look maybe towards the country that you live in. Look maybe more towards the global environment that we are living in. All of these things seem to be very heated right now. And there's no coincidence with that, because everything is connected. Everything is related to one another. So it's hot in more ways than one. And I think that that's really a powerful thing to recognize, because if we looked at this from a literal standpoint, sure, it's hot. Go jump in the pool, go swim in the ocean, go draw yourself a bath. You know what I mean? But it's hot in many other ways too. And I think that that's probably what we're here to talk about today is that how are we experiencing this heat and this hot period of time, and how it affects us individually. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you said a lot, and conversations are heated. News is heated. I mean, we're having a war. I mean, there's a lot of things going on, and I like what you're saying as far as this balance and this relationship. It's almost like that the tide and how people experience water, right? When the tide is up, when the tide is down, with the moon and all of that. What does all of that? How is this all related? And then how do we apply the theories of homeopathy and keeping and even so we have the energetic and then we have the practical stuff. So the practical stuff is like, I definitely, no question, was overheated, no question, and having and feeling like I was dehydrated. But then I have a almost 7-year-old grandson who also, the kids are also experiencing dehydration. It's like, what do you drink next? What do you do next to take care of that part, the practical part? So, thoughts?
Well, something to remember is that as homeopaths, we're vitalists. This is dating back to the separation of vitalism and materialism, right? So we view things from from more than just a physical perspective. So as a homeopath, I'm always going to be thinking of the non-physical experience. But let's be real, the material still exists, and it exists in a balance with the non-physical. These days, I'm using more belladonna these days than I had been using previously. Why? Because there's a lot of people who are reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, listen, my kid is absolutely beet red and flush and is complaining of a pounding, throbbing headache. And when is this taking place? Well, it's usually taking place in the afternoon, belladonna time being around 4 o'clock, right? So in other words, the peak of the day, the heat is at its peak. And, here we are seeing signs of, heat exposure, right? Where people are dehydrated, and their faces are flushed. You touch their faces or their necks, and it's burning up hot, and they get that throbbing headache that really kind of is really making them uncomfortable in the afternoon. And we're using obviously belladonna as the remedy for that, especially when we give them a nice cool glass of lemonade and they seem to be so refreshed by that. So with the heat, there's the obviously a homeopathic solution to this, but there's also practical solutions as well, right? So if we have a pool in the backyard, even if it's just a kiddie pool, or even if it's just a tub where we can put some cool water and put our feet in, that brings that temperature down significantly. And all of a sudden now we're not so overheated,
Right.
Which is what a lot of people are experiencing these days, is that feeling of being overheated.
Right. Exactly. I was told from Uta, who's not here today, and Chanel last week, because I was drinking Pedialyte, which is something that we used to give to our children, and I was told to do that. Well, it just ripped my stomach a new one. So these beautiful homeopaths told me to take apple juice mixed with water with a pinch of salt. And you know what? No ripping of the stomach.
Absolutely.
No ripping of the stomach. I mean, and that's good for anybody. And I've been telling everybody, because I'm hearing this from so many people. So what about you, Chanel? What are your thoughts on the practical thing before we get it? Because we're going to spend a lot of time, I know, talking about what's the spiritual reason for heat, but and how to apply homeopathy. But what are your thoughts on the practicalities?
Well, and I think that that point is really, really important. And I tell patients that all the time. I mean, if you're at the point with Pedialyte, it's almost best to go and get the saline drip at the hospital, like you're at that point. But all the body really needs, I think we always think water, right? Always. It's always, I'm dehydrated, I need water. And we forget that there's a huge feedback system. And we need electrolytes and that pinch of salt and that little bit of sugar in our water. And that's why lemonade is always a go-to, especially in the southern states. They drink, sweet tea and lemonade because it has that little bit of, it has the electrolytes that we need. You can actually deplete yourself more by drinking excess amounts of water and not getting back in the electrolytes that your body needs. So the practicality of just a little bit of juice in water, you don't want to dehydrate kids, especially with too much sugar. But that's a really important point, and that's something that people should definitely know as the heat continues. The one thing that, in terms of practicality, that Jonathan brought up right at the beginning is, the level of anger, and maybe this is a good segue into the spiritual side. Heat can make anybody aggravated, and if that happens, it's easier to flip a switch and be, in a situation where you maybe would have been calm and collected. Now you're irritated by the heat, you're uncomfortable. Getting into an argument with someone, it's a much easier jump from calm and collected to aggravated and upset. And there are studies that show that when temperatures are high, actual temperatures run high and people fight more, there's more crime. And I think that we're seeing a serious reflection of that and what is happening. Globally, our temperatures have risen. We're seeing more eruptions of volcanoes than we've seen in the last little while. They're calling for another eruption on the Ring of Fire. And general temperatures are running high. People are ready to fight all the time. Practically, there are remedies for that. I know that belladonna, pushed to the extreme, can claw up a wall and will fight with their parents and the delirium that follows with heat stroke. So, yeah, I think that the practical belladonna in the back pocket if you're going out in the heat is definitely, moms, have it in your bag. It's a good one to keep.
So before we continue, let's just say hi to Dr. Deepak. Welcome. How you doing?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Chanel. Hello, Jonathan. And hello, Amnan.
Hey, Doc, how you doing? Good to see you.
Sorry for being late today. But today we are having a good discussion on this heat remedies or the heat in the environment. So I think we should continue the discussions. So please continue, Malin.
Okay.
I will only discuss my point of view.
Cool. All right. Jump in anytime. Yeah. So just one more thing about the practical, because I love talking about the other, but I just want to make sure that we don't overlook getting good rest and eating the right foods. So do you want to address that? And then let's just go into all this stuff, because I wonder, when you were all talking, just as a point of reference, heat, as much as I don't like it, when we talk about all this stuff, it almost seems like there's a purging going on. And so I think we should address that, because as bad as I don't like the heat, and let me tell you, when I felt like I was dehydrated, I was miserable. But at the same time, whoa. So first, what do we eat? Or what's a good thing to eat? And what could you say about rest?
It's interesting that you bring up what you can eat, because I had this conversation the other day. I was out to lunch with a friend of mine who's a who's a pretty famous doctor actually, and he actually a while back, when I had reached out to him and said, hey, listen, I'm in my 40s now. I need to be, taking better care of my health. Do you have any suggestions for me? Because I only really use homeopathic medicine. So if I don't have symptoms, I'm really, I'm fine. Right. So, and, knowing me personally, and him being very, very familiar with Ayurvedic medicine, he recognized that my dosha, was out of balance in the sense that my vata, in other words, like I have excessive vata. So those of you that know me, my friends here included, know that I could tell a story that has 75 tangents. It'll take about 15, it'll take forever, and I will connect them all, and I'll be out there in space because I'm very, very vata, which means that I have to really kind of do things that are warming for me. So I've been avoiding, raw foods. I've been avoiding salads. I've been avoiding cold things, cold drinks, all that kind of stuff. The two of us were having lunch the other day in a vineyard outside, and it was every bit of 90 something degrees, 95 degrees. We're outside. And, he had ordered, I had gotten there a couple minutes late. He had ordered lunch for us, and he ordered a salad. And initially I was saying how I was looking to avoid it. And I said to him, but my vata. And he says, no. He goes, Jonathan, it's like 90 something degrees. He goes, now's not the time for that. He goes, eat the salad. He goes, drink the cold drink, because, this is when you do, right? In other words, he's like, do you think that you're supposed to be drinking hot tea right now? You know what I mean? In other words, it's 90 something degrees. No, now's the time to be, eating things that are more cooling, that typically I would not be eating, right? Especially, during, Vata season, which we came out of, where I was eating more warming type foods. Now, it's hot and we need to be eating things that are cooling. So that's going to include things that are raw, so eating the raw salads, eating the raw fruits, cold melon, things that are very, have a lot of sweetness and a lot of moisture, are going to be really helpful for us right now with all of the heat. And that's something that, makes sense, especially like right now for us here in New York. It's 90 something degrees. What's growing right now here in New York, right? Melons are growing right here in New York. So it's not a coincidence that nature kind of knows what it is that we need and provides. That's what we really should be eating. So, let's grab some melons. Let's open them up. Let's eat them. Let's find the ones with the seeds though, right? In other words, let's not find these seedless nonsenses. Let's find seeded, melons, watermelons, cantaloupes, honeydews, all those kinds of things. And let's be eating them because they really will cool us down.
So that's interesting. And then Chanel chime in, or Deepak. It's interesting because all of those things take water. And the hotter it is, the more we have to concentrate on watering them and picking them. So it's a really interesting scenario on how we are being called to task, taking care of our food, and at the same time, we need the food we don't so desperately have to take care of.
Everything's related.
Say that again?
Everything's related. Everything.
I never thought about it, the pieces, until we're talking about it. I mean, what we're talking about in this moment, I'm like, whoa, Chanel.
I mean, and to add to that, it's all of the foods that Jonathan just mentioned, all of the melons, while they're filling, they're really, really light on our digestive system. And that's what we want to be doing when it's really hot. You don't want to weigh your body down by eating stews and heavy foods, because it's going to take more to digest, and that's going to heat you up, and it's just going to make you uncomfortable. So all of these light foods and salads, you may have to eat a bit more because your body's working, but to have a heavy meal is just going to make you hotter. And that's probably why those foods are readily accessible in the summer months.
And my conspiracy hat that I wear says, well, look at what modern society promotes, though. What are we supposed to be doing and eating right now? We're supposed to be grilling steaks.
Barbecue.
Summer, exactly, right? And you think about the energy expense necessary in order to digest, red meat right now and a heavy steak right now, probably not going to be in your best interest. But you know something, a light salad, some fresh fruit, stuff like that, really easy. I think that might actually be better. And then so we take a look and see what's out there in regards to what's growing in nature, because we're just part of nature. And it's the things that would benefit us right now.
This is so interesting. Deepak.
Yes. So this is, I want to say that I am very lucky that I am living in the northern India, where I facing the four environment changes. We are having 4 months of winter. We are having 3 months of rainy season, and rest of the for the summers. We are having the temperature more than 40 degrees many times, and we are having the temperature below 10. So we are living in this area. So what I am suggesting to who are just facing the problem of the heat, that many of the person are or many of the consultant are advising that you take a lot of water or lot of liquid fruits. Instead of that, you just take a citrus fruit that is more beneficial instead of the plain water. So when you are going outside into the heat, you just take a citrus fruit and take a small quantity of water at a small interval. Do not take a large amount of water at a time. Just take a small amount of water and just take it in a very frequent levels. And when we are talking about the careness during the summers, what we are suggesting that you just cover your head from a cotton cloth. You just wrap up your neck from the cotton cloth, and so that the main area of your brain and neck is safe from the heat stroke. So the main problem in the heat is the heat stroke, which will be governed by your brain. So save your brain, save your neck first. You can remove the tannings from your hand. You can remove your tannings from any part of the body, but brain stroke, yeah, or the heat stroke is the major factor during the summer. So in the homeopathy, what we are suggesting that you can take the best remedy of homeopathic heat stroke is the aconite. Aconitum napellus is the best remedy. Gloninum is the best remedy. Belladonna, Chanel already told about that. And natamur is also one of the great remedy. Gelsemium is one of the great remedy we are using here in every kind of summer complaints. So here is a short explanation from my side. So what I suggest that we are going to be practical in every health issue, and we are suggesting you to save from your heat stroke without a medicine. That is the main motto. That you just, I told us you just wrap your head and wrap your neck to save your heat stroke. That is the best thing. So and take the citrus fruit.
I hadn't even thought about covering my head that way for that reason. I mean, I'll wear, like a baseball cap to keep the sun out of my eyes. But what you just said, that's a really good suggestion.
I was in Belize maybe 2 weeks ago, and it was hot down there. And and I did this actually when I lived in St. Thomas, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and it's exactly like Deepak's talking about. I wear one of those. I'm going to mispronounce them. Smegas or smegas, or it's a scarf. It's a cotton or linen scarf. I soak it in water, and it's wrapped around my neck and around my head, right? And it's like personal air conditioner. It absolutely brings my temperature down, 5 or 10 degrees compared to everyone else. And it was really extremely helpful. I learned a lot when I was in places like that, along the lines of something that you had mentioned previously, Marilyn. When I lived in St. Thomas, we used to climb trees, and we used to cut down coconuts, and we used to drink coconut water directly from the coconuts. And why? Because, like Chanel mentioned, they're full of electrolytes. So another great option for people, especially here in the States, there's a brand called Harmless Harvest that is a raw coconut water that's full of electrolytes. and it's the natural alternative to something like a Pedialyte. And it's extremely refreshing, provides you with the electrolytes so that you don't lose essential minerals. And it's that kind of thing to be drinking. What grows in hot climates? Coconuts grow in hot climates. So it's, again, an example of how nature really is taking care of itself by providing for the things that we need. Coconuts don't grow in the Arctic, you know what I mean? But then again, we're not really, at risk of losing our, essential minerals and electrolyte balance in the Arctic. We got other things there that, are provided by nature in that climate. So it's very, very helpful, I think, especially the suggestion that Deepak's making in regards to, before we give medicine, let's engage in some real practical solutions. I'm very light on the medicine. You know what I mean? My clients, it drives them nuts sometimes, where it's like they're looking for the drugs, and I'm looking for, stay out of the sun first. You know what I'm saying? Like, in other words, if you have something to do, now is not the time to be doing something in the middle of the day, in the peak of the sun outside. In other words, save that for the early morning, save that for dusk, and let your inside stuff be done when it's at peak temperatures. Unless, of course, you're at the beach and you can swim in the ocean, or have a pool and go swim in the pool. I'm going to swim at the pool at, 1:00 in the afternoon, because the sun is at its peak, but at the same time as I'm submerged in water. So I'm keeping myself nice and cool. If I didn't have that, I probably would not be outside. I'd probably be inside.
So one statement, and then based on homeopathy, and maybe, this is anybody can answer this. What you would prescribe to one, like to an adult, can also be used for a child. Is that correct? Like drinking coconut water, any of those things are good for kids as well. Is that correct? Anything you want to mention about that before we move?
I got an 11 5-year-old. They will absolutely eat melon all day long if I let them eat melon today, all day long. And those things that are helpful. Actually, something, what I send my 5-year-old when she's at camp today. My wife and I send her with a personal cooling device. This is a more modern version of my scarf, my head scarf, but it's a personal cooling device. It is essentially 2 fans that hang around her neck and blow cool air up into her face. I have a belladonna client, little boy, and he's prone for overheating. And I introduced his mother. She had no idea that these kinds of personal cooling devices even existed. The one that she keeps on showing up on my Facebook feed these days, it clips onto your belt, and your t-shirt goes over it. So when you turn it on, it's literally blowing cold air up in your shirt to cool you down. It's a personal cooling device.
Sounds like something I want.
Absolutely. Now's the time to be using those types of things.
I'll use paper, anything to fan myself. Chanel, do you have anything to add to that before we go on?
Yeah. Just a tiny note of caution. I never like being an alarmist, but with the really, really young ones, if we're trying to cool them down, we want to do tepid. We don't want to put that cold cloth on them. It's going to just wreak havoc. So room temperature, it'll get them enough moisture on their bodies that their bodies will do the work. And I think that's an important thing to point out too. Our bodies will do a lot of the work. So if we're sweating, we need to sweat. I know you were talking about, detoxing and stuff like that. It's a really good thing for our bodies to sweat. And I know we live in a world where, if you smell, it's a bad thing, or, that's a completely different conversation. Sweating, whatever amounts it is, when it's hot, it's a normal bodily function, and we need to allow our bodies to do those things. So wearing things like antiperspirants in this type of heat, it's not healthy. I often recommend that people either dry brush or pay attention to, your lymph nodes. If you're sweating a lot, or it's really, really hot, and you've got pain, under your armpits or behind your knee. Paying attention to that, kind of massaging it gently in the right direction. Now that's a whole other conversation, but knowing that that's where the toxins are going to go. They're going to sit here. They're going to sit in your neck, wherever your lymph nodes are, in the groin area, behind the knees. So maybe there are toxins sitting in your body that are finally coming out. You need to allow your body to sweat.
Okay, good. One more question, Chanel, since we're on this subject, and then sunscreen. Is there a homeopathic suggestion for sunscreen?
Well, homeopathically, we don't have anything that is a UV protector. I know that there are some homeopaths that may argue that the use of the remedy UV can help with something like that. I haven't used sunscreen in years. I personally don't think that it is necessary. There are so many toxins in sunscreen. There are natural butters and oils that have natural protectants in them. I know that here in Africa, shea butter has been used traditionally across the continent. And some will say that it doesn't work. Natural, unrefined shea butter protects skin. Now, having said that, it is a butter, it is an oil, can burn, but it is a protectorant from UVB. B? I think it's B is the bad one. Yeah. But I mean, I haven't, and I will not use sunscreen. So.
Another interesting point was that I recently thought of, because I've been thinking more and more about how whoever designed this whole thing really knew what they were doing. It's almost as if we have these light sensors that connect to our brain to tell us when it's really bright out there. And it's almost as if our skin has the ability to change its color, almost to protect itself from being burned, right? So what happens when we shade the eye sensors, and the eye sensors now don't think it's so bright out, right? So we wear sunglasses, we trick the brain into saying, it's not that bright. Don't worry. You don't need to, increase the amount of melanin or whatever in your skin, in order to protect yourself. You're fine. It's shady out. It's not that bright, right? So maybe foregoing the sunglasses might be a way for the body to help regulate. Caveman didn't have sunglasses, right? Caveman was out in the plains and the deserts under the bright sun, no sunglasses. Eyes are detecting the brightness, telling the brain, hey, go protect the skin. It's bright out. And that system, that natural system, exists for us. But the modern system has us doing things that aren't necessarily in our best interests, right? And everyone's wearing sunglasses right now, and everyone's getting burnt because nobody's skin is really kind of protecting itself. So maybe that might be another solution that people could consider as well.
To that point, we also used to rest if it was hot. There wasn't this demand for us to work, I guess, our 9 to 5, whether we're outside or inside. There wasn't this regulated way in which we live. If it was midday and it was really, really hot, we'd go inside. We wouldn't work those hours. Our bodies would tell us that you're not going to make it if you stay out here between 12 and 2. Take that rest, come back, work till And I mean, in the north, I mean, when does your sun go down in the middle of summer? 9 o'clock?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's late.
So,
You know? My kid's always saying to me,
so
why do I got to go to bed now? It's sunny out. You know what I mean? No, like, I don't want to hear that. It's 6:30, 7 o'clock, go to sleep.
That's a very good point.
I mean, isn't that even telling us, you know, you can work a little bit later now, and in the winter it's too cold at night, so come on in at 4. So there's something to be said there.
Definitely.
I think that avoiding peak sun is probably just a smart thing. You know what I mean? In other words, peak sun, peak heat, peak brightness. This is the time that you siesta, right? In other words, come inside, get in the shade, take a rest, recharge your battery. You're going to be able to continue to do stuff well into the evening, like Chanel's talking about. You don't have to do it at 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon when it's oppressive. Come back out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when the sun's kind of a little bit lower in the sky. It may wind up being a little bit of a better opportunity.
Very interesting. And there's a comment on the chat, which I'm going to read. This is all so important. The things that you don't normally even think about. Like, I'm going to be thinking about my sunglasses. I'm going to be thinking about a hat. I mean, eating more. I mean, I eat salads anyway, but sometimes you come in from being outside in the pool and whatever, you have a chill. And so you tend to sometimes want something warmer. But this is all really relevant. So let me ask, now let's kind of segue into, like, what do you think the meaning of this heat is? I mean, what is it? Is there a spiritual something coming up for you? Is there what does it mean now? And something that Homeopathy World Community is going to be looking at is applying homeopathy to current events. And what does that mean? How do we deal with these concepts homeopathically? So now let's kind of talk a little bit more ethereal about heat. And where are we going with it? And
now's that time, right? Things are heating. What does heat do? Heat provides energy, right? In other words, heat powers engines, right? In other words, combustion, heat, right? Things, heat, sun, all these things are producing energy. So right now, things are moving at a tremendously faster pace, right? Because that's what the heat does. When things are cold, things are slower, things are more sluggish, right? And right now, it's hot out there in more ways than one. And you can see this happening in global events. You can see this happening in the political spectrum. You can see this happening in societal situations and such. Remember, we have to kind of separate ourselves from the natural from the artificial, right? Because we can artificially induce lots of things during this time, right? Like air conditioning. Air conditioning is delicious right now, but it's artificially induced, right? In other words, but right now, and just in the same way, in a societal situation, we can cool things down by artificially manipulating circumstances. But if we take a look at what's happening naturally, you'll see that things have grown heated, especially over this past week or so. And that's the reason why I was referencing the Lion's Gate portal, because you may as well take advantage of that extra energy that's existing right now. Set your intentions.
Yeah, can you just explain a little bit about the Lions thing for people who don't know?
It's funny because if you see my desk and such, you'll see, I mean, I see that she's got a bay leaf over here that's something's been written on, and there's a candle over it and such. And it sounds like somebody's been setting her intentions, because right now in the cosmos, the Lionsgate portal is open. It's a period of time where intentions can be manifest. We have some experience with this because I guess it was a year ago, we had come home from St. Thomas, and we had decided that we would set our intentions for what we wanted to see happen for the rest of our year, so to speak. And that was when we set our intentions and, used the energy, the heightened energy that exists here, in this limited window of time, to set those intentions and manifest them into a reality, and they did. Just a note, be very specific in your intentions, okay? Revenue and profits are not the same thing necessarily.
So what does the Lionsgate opening have to do with the heat wave or heat?
Well, the Lionsgate portal, August 8th, yesterday, right? In other words, and August, in a lot of places, can be hot. So, it's one of those things where we're typically seeing, this increased energy, and we're able to capitalize on that,
So, and then Deepak and Chanel chime in. So some of this is interesting because when you're hot, you can be distracted. And things can happen when you're distracted. So it's a time to not allow for the distraction of the heat or what the heat brings, but to keep your mind on the prize, to keep your heart on the prize, to remember who you are and not get distracted by the heat or the heated events or the heated political environment or any of those things, but to keep your eye on the prize. So Deepak, you have want to add to that?
Yes. I want to mention it that the whole earth is now converting into the heat. So everyone want to think about this, the position of heat. We already know that we are going to a bad manner and we are creating a bad world through this heat. So many of the person we are facing in India, and I am explaining in my regions how we are facing the problem in summers. So I see many people; those are working in this heat very patiently, and many of the person is coming with this paper. Oh, doctor, this is really a very bad summer. This is a very bad heat today. So one thing I want to tell that you should peacefully from your mind, because heat is mainly affect your brain, and if you are patienceless, if you are a panic to the heat will just go to convert in a bad disease. So do not panic in from this heat. If you are living in the region where the heat is constantly there, then you just go with your work with the patient that I am going to work within this environment only. You just take your food, your fruit intakes, your citrus fruits very regularly, and give with a positive manner. So this will prevent you from the heat stroke. That is I want to explain every person who are living in the regions where the temperature is very high, because in India we are seeing many of the region is facing the temperature more than 45 degrees. So many but we are working, everyone is working in this heat. A few people, those are going to be very panicked that, oh my God, this is a very high temperature. They are suffering more than the person who are not thinking about that heat. So what like that, our homeopathy is also thinking like that, that our mind, the mental status will recover, will reflection to your disease. So skin or the many things are reflection of your mental state. So be patient and cover your head, wrap up your neck to avoid the heat stroke. That is the main motto, without any medicine.
Deepak, I'm wondering if people are built differently in different climates. For example, if you came to visit me in New York in January and we're experiencing, 0 degree, 5 degree temperatures, in other words, freezing temperatures, basically, the impact that it would have on you versus, say, someone like myself who's been used to that, who's a Capricorn, born in the winter, and somebody, and in your country where people are much more accustomed to higher temperatures, are they more capable of managing? People in the desert probably can't handle the frozen tundra, just as if people in the frozen tundra probably couldn't necessarily handle the desert so much.
Yes, Jonathan, think about that in the winters when the temperature is going down below 10 degrees, the problem is coming to your heart. And the other side, when the temperature is going beyond 40 degrees, then your brain affected. So there are the different organ for the different temperatures are facing. In the cold region, the heart is more important, and in the summer, the heat, the brain is the more suffering organ. So, and you just see that the ratio of the morbidities are the same. Many of the person are died due to the heart attacks, and many of the person are due to the died due to the heat stroke. So there are different versions, and I suggest everyone, when you are living in the world, you are living in the cold weather, then you just think about that. I am living in that, and you think about the positive ways. And if you are living in the summer weather, then you just because you cannot do nothing without about the environment. You cannot change the temperature. You just change your mindset. So change the mindset only. This is the only option.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it makes it, I mean, and looking at it the way we're looking at it, the positive, what to do to help yourself, and the positive and elements is really important. So Chanel, add to that.
I mean, what I can say is I'm an extremely positive person. And coming from North America, living in South Africa, it is really difficult to be positive here in the winter. And I mean, speaking kind of to Jonathan's point about moving from place to place depending on what your body is used to. I mean, I grew up in North America. I'm used to walking into a home and either being air conditioned or heated, walking into a mall and being heated or air conditioned, the car, air conditioned, heated. Now, I'm not a big fan of air conditioning, but I'm a big fan of heat. And the winters here are, I mean, we're a coastal city. So when the wind blows, it blows sea air and it's Arctic air. It's chilly here. And our homes are built for summer. So we have brick homes. When it gets cold, it is freezing and I can't get away from the cold. Used to walking into the house and I could wear jeans and a t-shirt or even shorts and a t-shirt in the middle of winter in North America and not even think about it. Here, how many layers can I put on my body? And I think the other side of that is, and maybe this speaks to the homeopathic remedy that I need, but you can't get away from it. You can put layers on, but you can only take off so much before you're in your skin and you're just hot. So yes, we should all definitely be positive about, being alive and being able to experience summer and spring and all of the amazing things that come with it. There's also something to be said about countries that were already in extreme temperatures. So places where, before we saw the temperatures rise, it was already sitting at 35, 45, or what would be 95, 100. I mean, now they're looking at heat waves where, and just out where Utah is, people are dying. So while there is a great energy about summer and there is a lot of happiness to experience with the changing of season, we're looking at extremes that are extreme to the point where the human body can't handle.
So is this, we look at
I
it
think
and
that is sadly the conversation that we're having too.
so we're looking at this from different perspectives. As homeopaths, the way you look at it is what? Is it, this is a purge? Is this a punishment? Is this it's a cleansing? Is this to keep your attitude in check? Is it to be hard overhead? I mean, where do we take this? I mean, I know there's not one why, but how would you sum it up? And is there a way to look at this homeopathically? And how is it all connected? Is there a story?
There's a cycle to life. There's a cycle to nature. There's a cycle to the seasons. There's no good. There's no bad. Those things are just perspectives. That's just how we're looking at things based upon the perspective of the present moment. Because the only moment that actually exists is the present moment. So how we're looking at it is really just a perspective. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. So right now it's hot. So we should take that into consideration and, adjust accordingly. Homeopaths, check on your sulfurs. They're not doing well right now. You know what I mean? In other words, right? So, I think that what we need to do is more so than look for a story that explains what's happening. We really are just accepting the reality that right now it is what it is. And when we're saying that it's hot, we have to adjust accordingly and recognize that now is the time to maybe avoid the outdoors in the middle of the peak sun, maybe take a rest in the shade. Maybe we should be eating things that are more cooling. Maybe we should be drinking things that, replenish our electrolytes because we'll be sweating more and detoxing, stuff out of our bodies through our skin. Maybe we should be considering where our minds are at. You know how they always talk about how there are more shootings in summertime because people are hot-headed, right? So here we're seeing a mental pathology emerging in hot temperatures, like Deepak's talking about. So maybe we need to just adjust accordingly and recognize, avoid heated conversations, avoid heated subjects. Really the best thing for us to do, and I guess that this would speak to how homeopaths, view nature, is that we recognize the physical as well as the non-physical. So from the physical perspective, let's honor our physical bodies and take into consideration how the hot temperatures are going to be affecting them. Well, let's also take into consideration the non-physical and how the hot temperatures are affecting our thoughts and our feelings as well. This just like anything else, this could be a great time, but if we're not considering these things, it may not be so great a time for some.
And in keeping with what you're saying, understanding these solutions, these remedies, and not to resist. It is what it is. And there's things that you can do, whether it's a heat wave, a cold wave, a frustration, or whatever, is to take a look at it, observe it. What do you do with it? What's your participation in it? And then there are options, but not, because when you resist, the thing persists, right? Whatever you resist is going to come talking to you louder and louder and louder. I don't want the heat. Oh, it's going to be 98. And the more we take care of the more of us, everyone out there, the more we take care of ourselves, drink the fluids, eat the right foods, we're going to change. We're going to adjust the temperature. whether it's an emotional temperature, a physical temperature, a spiritual temperature, we're going to adjust it. The happier the people, the more resigned we are on what's going on, and the better we'll all feel, right? We'll notice, but it may not hurt as much. So Chanel, do you mind reading Jillian's comment for us? Because it's a good one too, and I want to make sure we get that in. Do you see it?
I don't know why it's not loading now.
Okay.
I will. If you continue, then I'll get.
All right. Okay. You'll find it? Okay, because it's good. So we only have a few moments left. So words of wisdom, Jonathan?
Stay cool. In more ways than one.
That's a cool statement. What about you, Deepak? Words of wisdom?
Think positive.
That's also important. This too shall pass. This too shall pass.
You'll be thinking about this time when it's 0 degrees in the middle of January and the snow is outside and your car is frozen. Right?
And then we have a habit of like, not liking that either. And so it's about it is what it is.
Correct.
It is what it is. So where will people find you, Jonathan, if they want to talk to you about your work?
You can find me on at Long Island Homeopath. So whether it's on Facebook or Instagram or on the web, Long Island Homeopath, you can connect with me there.
Deepak, what about you?
I'm from India, and you can find me on orbitclinics.com, orbitclinics.com. We have 10 branches all over the world for the homeopathic clinics only, so you can find me on that website.
Perfect. And Chanel, do you get it?
Hi.
Yeah. I'll read it. You talk. All right, I'll read it. You talk about yourself.
I got it.
Okay, good. Do that, then talk about yourself.
So, Jillian said, when you put a potato into hot oil, you get a fried chip or crisp. Depending on which oils you put on the skin, going into the sun just varies how cooked you become. Shea butter, aloe vera, and similar products help to re-moisturize the skin afterwards. Ideally, avoid the strong sun. Nature will go its own way. It's up to us to help balance the effects of both natural and man-made occurrences.
Exactly. Yep. That's our job, very, is to balance it. So tell everybody where they find you and what they'll find when they find you besides you. So if somebody wants to work with you, go ahead.
I am. You can find me at Coco Holistics with an X on Instagram or Facebook. You can also get in contact with me about HWC. I am always available to chat if you want to be on a show or be in a webinar or anything like that. We can definitely get that sorted out for you. And I work mostly with families and children, and I love it. I am available internationally.
And just give us a little more about HWC. Anything coming up this week, events, and anything special?
We don't have anything coming up this week, but on the 27th or the 28th of August, depending on where you are in the world, we are running our first Asian Pacific event. So it is still an HWC event, but we are running in a time zone for the Pacific region and Asia, and we are very excited about that. We will be having our very own Dr. Deepak, and we will be talking about PCOS and infertility. So we're very excited about that. That's on the 27th at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time. There will be, obviously, I believe that sits at 9 Indian Standard Time. So
perfect.
Please join us for that. It's at the end.
Yeah, and sign up on the website, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Deepak, you have a word about that?
Yes. Thank you, Chanel, for introducing our course. This is regarding about the PCOS. And the main thing is we need to understand the illness. So we are having the 6 faculties there. This is a 7-day course, and you can find it on orbitclinics.com at the online classes. So this is a perfect course for every homeopath and every homeopathic student. So this is from our side, and our faculty of Orbit Clinics will teach you.
Cool. All right. Well, we want to thank everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. It was great to be together. We love each other, as you can tell. And we love you. We're glad you came. Come back again next month. We do this the second Tuesday in the month, and we're going to be talking like this. So come join us and participate with us. Take Chanel up on it. If you have any questions, please reach out. We love you. Amnon, thank you so much for everything, and we'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Amnon. Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.